Hello. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to this morning Sunday session. There are sometimes birds screaming in the distance, but we can we can turn them off. I put them together with the lo-fi generator just for extra atmosphere. Welcome, Nervan, to the stream. Let me know how the sound settings are, if my voice is loud enough or the music is too loud. Today is gonna be another all good sounds. All right, thank you. Today is gonna be a little bit of another experimental session. Today we're gonna be doing some carving. When the autumn started this year in September, for some reason I picked up some cheap chisels or whatever they're called, carving tools in a local shop, and it turned out to be very fun. So I thought maybe today is a good time to try some carving. But we will see how long it takes. I don't know yet what we're gonna carve. I have bought a few pieces of linoleum for, I think the small ones were like €3. They seem to be sort of maybe A5 size. So that could be something for print if the results are good. If they're not good, then it's just gonna be some carved linoleum. I also have this big piece, but I don't think this is gonna be happening today. But the small pieces we can carve. First though, I don't know, as I said, what to carve. So let's just grab a piece of paper and think what could be a fun thing to carve. Also, let's not forget to hydrate. Even if it's hydrating through coffee. A hedgehog. A hedgehog can be a thing. Maybe a hedgehog with some stuff on his back. I did some other carving before. Maybe I will show what I've done so far. Well, obviously with friends, it's best to see them, I guess, printed on something rather than pile of linoleum, but maybe that will inspire us for something. Something that's autumn-like with ginkgo leaves. Ginkgo leaves. I like the. Let's write it down. Ginkgo. How do you spell it? Ginkgo leaves. They're a pretty cool shape. You know, this. It's like a kind of fishtail. Great ideas so far, Norman. Thank you for your help. So, these are some things I've carved in the first 2 months of this fall. Maybe some of this will turn into prints that will be available for sale. There's also this scales, but I also like eyes for some reason. Maybe it's my eye period, but I have like a few different eyes that you can combine in weird faces with like a mouth for an eye. Anyway, I haven't really mastered the chisels yet, but it is very enjoyable, and I feel like it's quite safe in the sense that if you make a mistake, unless you're doing something really fine arty and you have a lot of tiny lines that you can't mess up, if it's geometric or like very symmetrical, that would be really hard to achieve. But I feel like these things that I've been doing so far, just free-handed doodles, they've been pretty forgiving. That's maybe a better word than safe. I also did a few of the tiny ones. You can even see them. There is a face. Maybe that should be a print. There is a skull. Some sun, moon. There is a slug. Of sorts. There is a big snail. Biggish. It's the biggest so far. I also tried to do some landscapes, but with mixed results. Maybe I will post some of these as prints on Instagram or Discord. There's also this house, which is kind of like a Dutch inspired house. Another eye. Well, I think that's enough for now. There are more things. There is another eye. But I think it's clear that some linoleum has been ruthlessly carved since the beginning of this autumn. And today we will continue this act of violence against flooring. Maybe it's gonna be a hedgehog with an eye in the back. I also want to warn maybe ahead of time that I will be jamming on that synthesizer device that I got at the end of this session as well. So be prepared that the outro will be probably live played. Hedgehog written down. Who else? Maybe if we're talking about something autumny. What comes to mind is harvest. Also, can you read the pencil from there? I think you can. Also mushrooms. There was a weird mushroom illustration on my Instagram lately. Pumpkins is also a classic. Pumpkin. I also think oak, like, you know, acorns and leaves. And shape-wise, I'm thinking should be something like maybe this size. So either something vertical or something horizontal. But I feel vertical today. Let's do something vertical. Ginkgo leaves. Hedgehogs. Also, talking about harvest, another thing is the scarecrow. And also corn. Let's date this sheet of paper. Alright, hedgehog, maybe another animal. Let's see, hedgehogs are pretty simple. They're just like half a circle with a nose. Sticking out, maybe smaller. Well, the hedgehog must have an eye, so we can make a huge eye for the hedgehog. We can make different expressions for this hedgehog. Maybe it's a angry hedgehog. Oh, maybe to kind of make a circular composition on this. Let's try this one. Can be like a circle, and one half of it is a hedgehog, and another half is a pumpkin, or yeah, maybe a pumpkin. But how do they merge in the middle? Is it like where the nose of the hedgehog meets the butt of the pumpkin? no, the stem. Maybe that's maybe that's a better description of this. Where the leaves are attached. So it's like opposites, you know. Half pumpkin, half hedgehog. That's one idea. Maybe we do something abstract with just these ginkgo leaves. Just some composition with the ginkgo leaf. Maybe the ginkgo leaf is a scarecrow. There also has been how do you call it? A poll, maybe, or well, anyway, I posted some stuff on Instagram where I was asking the audience to pick between two houses. Or first it was 5 houses, and then we narrowed it down to 2, and then one of them won. So I thought maybe if there is time after this carving session, I can finish up the winning house. But let's see how long does this take, because it might take a while to carve everything. Or maybe just like a big pumpkin. Which is also a head. So there will be like a big eyes. But it's also a scarecrow. There was no hedgehog on this one though. This one feels a little bit too Halloweeny for me. Maybe something else. Let's try something more geometric, perhaps. Maybe it's like a crest, so there is some kind of shield. Maybe it's a crest for the season. So there can be like these ginkgo leaves here sticking out. And then maybe oak leaves on the other side. And acorns. Let's make everything stick out. And then we can incorporate hedgehog here in some way. I need to check how ginkgo leaves look because I'm not sure. Not sure they're just a fishtail. They're more like a they have kind of softer edges, I think. And then the bottom one can also split in two, and one have I don't know, pumpkin, and another is maybe corn. Yeah, let's do this crest for autumn. I don't know why, but why not at the same time? So can I pick this amazing piece of linoleum? Try to sketch this crest here. I don't want to go too big, but I also don't want to go too small because then it's gonna be kind of harder to carve without messing stuff up. Let's say this will be the main area, and then the bottom end of it would be somewhere. Whoa, that's a wobbly line. Somewhere here, maybe like this. What I find interesting in carving when I'm carving something, or what is it called? Lina cutting? Lina carving? Anyway, when I'm doing this kind of thing, I often try to figure out what should be carved and what should be left on the surface, because obviously what you don't carve is getting printed, and that sometimes isn't obvious because, you know, it's kind of working with only two colors. So you need to see everything very kind of monochrome. I don't know how else to explain it, but you know, every line, for example, with this shield here, I don't know yet if the line itself should be carved out, and then when you print it, it's gonna be a white outline, or do I want to have it left untouched and carve around it, so when I print, then it's more, then it's actually a dark, or whatever the color is picked, line. But that is for later to figure out. For now, let's just sketch this thing out. Let me look up ginkgo leaves. Okay, so they are kind of like, they're sort of half circle at the top, but not really, more like a kind of like a skirt, bit wavy, and then they kind of converge into the stem, almost like perpendicular in some cases, I guess. And some have a deeper cut in the middle, and some looks like have less of a dent there. But some have very prominent, so I don't know which is right here. I'm still trying to figure out what time to stream at, and then which day. It's just a second stream this year, I think, so it's still unclear if Friday evening or Sunday morning would be the best days for me. I think on Sunday a lot of people have other plans, so maybe that's not super smart to stream on Sundays. But at the same time, you can, start your Sunday with some art and take it slow, drink your coffee at the stream, chat with some people. Maybe there is also value in that. Other time slots I'm thinking about is something during the week in the evening. Because it also is sometimes nice to just brainlessly doodle after a long work day. Let's put a couple of acorns here. And some oak leaves. That's exactly your Sunday? Well, that is perfect then. You came to the right place. Also, hello. Nice that you joined here. If anyone watching on Twitch doesn't know who oh jeez, who I'm talking with, it's a viewer who is watching us on YouTube. I haven't figured out how to put YouTube comments on the screen through the same overlay that I'm using for Twitch comments, but it doesn't matter. I can see the comments, and everyone watching on YouTube can also see the comments. Also, if you're watching the recording of this stream, or even, maybe even right now, maybe it's time to talk about algorithms. Because as you know, we're all subjects to algorithms that serve as content and that dictate which businesses thrive, which streams are being watched, which prints are being purchased. So there are ways that you can use to support this channel without paying anything. And you probably know what I'm talking about. But I wanted to talk about this not only because, liking and subscribing is vitally important for channels these days. So if you haven't done this, but you would really like to do it, do not hesitate. But also, I was thinking lately about all this algorithmic content that we're getting served. Obviously, it's hard not to think about this stuff with the rise of AI populating everything on every website and every second email that you receive. Maybe it's half hedgehog, half sun. Maybe we can continue the needles and it's gonna be a sunset hedgehog. We can also add a big eye socket here so it looks like a skull in the ground, but it's actually a hedgehog. I don't know, that got dark pretty fast. Anyway, what I was saying about the content and all this stuff. There were also recently elections in the Netherlands, which I think altogether got me thinking that in this day and age, we are constantly voting, but we just never are presented with a clear choice, or it's not really explicitly stated. What I mean is that, if everything is on the internet, or a lot of things are governed by algorithms that bring you search results or Instagram reels that you should always like if you see it's from Sagamor Studio, just there's a rule of thumb. All of that stuff, if you engage with it in any way, this tells the algorithms that you're interested in some way, or at least that it's working to get you engaged. And if engagement is the primary purpose, then they've achieved their goals. And I don't think you can really fight that part, because businesses will be always interested in you checking out their business, and advertisement and marketing is focused on getting that kind of as effectively as possible. But you still, as a consumer of content, you still have a choice. And I think it's important to realize that it's a choice. And it is hard because, whenever you're ultimately, maybe to give an example of what I'm talking about, is, when you're presented with some piece of content that you don't like, often people would still click on it or write something there angry, or how much they dislike the content. Or even sometimes it's not like with that part, okay, people get angry and all that I can understand it. But often you get content that doesn't really get you angry, or you disagree with, but more kind of makes you curious, or maybe tickles some weird curiosity, morbid curiosity, or something like that. And I feel like social media and YouTube and a lot of these public social digital spaces, they thrive on that. And people create bots and or post content themselves that caters to that type of curiosity or anger or whatever it is. And I feel like not engaging with that link or with that video or with that website is a way to distance yourself from it, and also kind of make a choice, because any engagement is good for those places. And sometimes it's not easy to not give in to temptation of sorts, but at the same time I feel like that's the only way to sort of return back control over your feed and your maybe emotional state with social media, and kind of reevaluate that relationship with the content that you consume. Just kind of consciously not engaging, not giving your energy to that. Maybe it's the same idea as what people say when, be the change you want to see in the world, or whatever the saying is. That it doesn't matter what the world is around you is trying to make you do, and it doesn't matter in which state the world is. You can always rely on just being yourself and following that as compass. This mess in the corner, by the way, that you see is supposed to be a hay stack, a bunch. and every corn needs a leaf. And at the same time, don't shy away with engaging with the content that you want more of on the internet. You know, if you're here and you're watching this, you probably don't mind it. Unless you just joined and will leave in like 3 seconds because the attention wasn't grabbed hard enough. But that's a different story. We also need something for the fourth corner of this shield. We have ginkgo, we have oak, we have hay, we have pumpkin, we have corn, we have a skull, hedgehog, sunset. There needs to be something else. Autumn related. What happens in the autumn? Moon? Nah, that happens the whole year. Well, maybe I will leave this for now just as an empty slot. Who knows? I will also leave some empty space here on the sides because maybe it's useful to add something here as well, or maybe some decorative element or some other symbol. And also, do I want to get this line, whatever, this banner? These crows are going crazy. Alright, I think sketch-wise we are kind of done with the sketching. Now it's time to actually do the carving. And the way we do carving is pretty simple and straightforward. We just take this linoleum, pick one of these. This one is by Paper Poetry. Don't know why it's paper poetry, because you don't carve paper, do you? What I liked about this set is that it has all that seem to be necessary tips. You know, it has the small rectangular chisel and a large one, and then it has 2 round ones, which I personally haven't found super useful except for removing big bunch of linoleum. And then it also has 2 more of these just stabbers, which is useful for cutting lines or cutting parts of linoleum off. But I'm no expert. There are people who know how to use these tools. I use mostly this one and the big round one, just for small and big things. I also have this cutter, which is even thinner. If you can see, it's kind of similar, but maybe a little bit narrower than this paper poetry one. But it probably is better for other type of linoleum, because this one I have here is very, you see, like it's very bendable and soft. They're basically regular linoleum, but there is also this kind of more sturdy linoleum, which is this canvas. Oh, €5.50. It's also more expensive. This one was €3. This one almost double the price, and it has this coating that I guess this thing is better equipped at cutting. I don't know. This is a harder linoleum. I'm not sure I prefer it, but I have two types to try out sometime. Have anyone carved anything on linoleum before? If you did, do let me know in the chat how it went. And if you're a professional carver, maybe you have some tips. So my goal is, my kind of thinking is I will carve first the shield shape. I will leave it as linoleum sticking out, so it's going to be printed, and I will remove kind of the outside two lines and make an outline of these guys, and then we'll figure out what to do with this. Probably all of this will get carved away, but maybe I will leave like a thin strip here in the middle, and then obviously these lines will have to be also thick, because I want them to be... Do I want them to be printed actually? Or would it be better if they're white? Maybe white makes more sense because it's kind of then more sun-like. We'll see when we get there. I'm also not sure about this hedgehog skull monstrosity. So there is our first line carved and the first noodle. I guess there must be a world record for the longest noodle carved out of linoleum. But if there isn't, there should be one. It's like with orange peel or mandarins. Or if you're peeling apples before eating them, then it's like with apples. I think with this carving is to just maintain constant pressure. but not put too much pressure so you don't accidentally cut yourself or just mess up your carving. But kind of always put enough pressure to cut and just kind of take your time with it. That's how I've been doing it so far. It's hard to carve a straight line, as in you only get one chance. Well, depends on how yes, and it depends on how thick your line can be, because you know, like if I carve not a very straight line but it's thin, then I can always go a little bit harder on the pressure and make the line thicker and just fix it. It's kind of like in geometry, you know, if you mess up, if you're, you know, drawing a square and you mess up, you can always make it very thick square, and then it's suddenly more square than it was before. Since I bought my carving tools, Sakharina asks if I need to carve the tools often. I haven't sharpened them yet since I bought them. And the stuff that I showed earlier on the stream is not all, but most of the things I've carved. So I feel like I've gave these tools quite of a job. And so far, they have been very good. Like I think maybe this tiny one gets a bit less sharp, especially if you use it on a harder linoleum. Either you need to maybe clean it somehow or just sharpen, but I'm not sure how to sharpen them. Like you need a very, I mean, you don't sharpen them on the inside, I guess, but you need some kind of sharpening stone. Sharpening stone. Something from Tolkien. So these paper poetry tools are probably just some in local brand Chinese knockoffs, but they're working fine, and you could find them in I've seen them in more than one store, like some of these art shops. You're very cool. The other thing to keep in mind with carving is what should be on the top and what should be at the bottom. So, you know, like if you have a cross that you want to carve, do you want these lines to go underneath these lines? Kind of what is on the foreground, what is on the background? And those connection points, I think for those you need kind of the sharpest and tiniest tool, because they often get these like loose ends that you need to carefully cut off, otherwise it can kind of rip across the line, and just something to keep in mind. So for example, here the line of the shield goes underneath the line of the ginkgo leaf, so I will carve that leaf first. I also feel like if you're working on a smaller size piece of linoleum, you have this flexibility to just move it around so it's comfortable for your hand to apply the pressure. And it's like with sketching, you know, if you have one constant line, I think it gives you better results than if you try multiple times and have this kind of the difference between this line and this line. With sketching, it's kind of similar with carving. Although you can always kind of clean it up, but depends on the size of your prints that you that was an awkward pause. Depends on the size of the prints that you're carving, because if you have a lot of tiny details, like you can sometimes see on Instagram, those crazy masters of lino cutting do. Then I feel like you don't have any room for mistake, because you know every tiny thing will be visible and every stroke matters. But with this kind of prints, when it's all loosey-goosey, everything is, you know, however it works out, it's okay. You can be more free with your strokes, chisel strokes. I want to leave like a little thingy here at the end of the acorn, this little bump. I find it pretty hard to do good. Now this looks like a condom sticking out from behind the shield. Well, let's see how the rest looks. Oh boy. I find it pretty difficult to do like good curves, especially on small scale. I think it probably is easier to do like a bigger curve if you move the whole arm, but these small curves like on the oak leaf, I think going just very slow works the best. Otherwise I get kind of like a jagged line. Like especially if you don't turn the canvas or the linoleum much while doing the curve, that makes it a bit easier, but then you need to have enough mobility in your hand, or like enough space around to wiggle your elbow. Another place where you kind of need to be careful sometimes, or at least I find myself benefiting from extra care is when your chisel is returning to the line. So if we, okay, starting from another line is kind of easy. You already have the depth you want, so you can kind of just pick it from there. But then when you're returning to the line, so here, for example, as we get back, whoa, I was rushing, it wasn't good. Like here, I feel like you need to be very careful when your chisel is coming back out, because it's very easy to just slip through and damage this beautiful line that we carved before. This line can be a little bit smoother. All right. So with oak leaves, we're kind of done. Now it's time to carve these ginkgo leaves. Be careful again to not damage the existing line. Start this one from here. It's also pretty tricky to maintain constant pressure if you want to have a constant line, which you don't always want to, like if it's at the edge of the carving, then like here, for example, because it's gonna be like this whole part will be cut off, so I can kind of go as deep or as shallow as I want, and I can make mistakes like this and it's gonna be fine. But if it's on the internal part of the image, then you need to take a bit more care. In places where you don't really have a second chance with the line, I think it's just better to go slowly and reduce the pressure a bit. I also don't know how people hold their tools, but I find it convenient to just place the end of the tool into the palm of the hand, and you can just kind of rest your hand, and that's already enough pressure to cut through. I mean, you can rest your hand on top of it, obviously, but the way I apply the pressure is kind of like that. And then you have your fingers to kind of twist and turn as you need. Okay, now the hay. I find grass pretty tricky to carve. Let's take a moment. So with the hay, what I found useful, trying to find what to show you, this isn't hay. Thing with a block of grass and well, I can't find it anywhere, but it's on Instagram. If you're not there, you should check it out if you haven't seen it. But I find it useful to kind of figure out which strands of grass will be in the front and carve those first and kind of go foreground to background, which I guess makes sense with carving linoleum. And I don't want the kind of the top line of this hay to be going directly into the center of the cross. I want to have that line being the longest just for, you know, visual symmetry, but I want maybe some other strand of grass to kind of go above it first. We'll see how that looks, because I think it's easy to cut grass in, but leave these tiny strands of grass uncut is the challenge. At least they're generally heading in the same direction, so that should make it easier. But I want to apply as little pressure as I can to keep the lines very thin. Because there will be a lot of them, theoretically. The good thing about grass is that it's natural for it to be messy. and you know, it can break off in the middle. Or be inconsistent thickness. Let's see if this grass actually looks like something when we print it. But hopefully this technique proves useful. Whoa. Let's see how many strands of grass do we need to create the impression of it actually being a haystack or hay bunch. Hay bunch. Hay bunch. What is the proper name for this thing? Does anybody know? I think I'm missing some lines in the middle here, or those that I started at the bottom. All right, now I think it's time for the hedgehog. Let's think things through a little bit. And just so... I'm pressing so hard on this pencil that's not meant to be pressed so hard that I keep breaking the lead. So there are a few ways to draw a hedgehog, mainly two, you know. Only two ways to draw a hedgehog. One with sticks and one with triangles. And I'm not sure which one works here the best for lina cutting. I feel like it would be easier to do triangles, but would it be realistic? Maybe I just... Yeah, I think I will try to do the lines. I actually use this little corner here to draw a mini hedgehog, just to see how it works. So one way would be to do like a triangle, and then another triangle, and then another one, and so on, until we have a full hedgehog. That would be one way. hedgehogified. The other way would be to have kind of, you know, like we know the outside of the hedgehog will be cut off, right? So we can make a bigger outline first, like this. And then go from the outline in with this kind of steps and just steps and just create an illusion of spikes. And I don't know if this is better. It's more messy, that's for sure. Can also go do it from the other side. Just hard to choose. Let's do the bottom part of the hedgehog. That one will stay the same anyway, right? Except... no. Was thinking for a second, maybe connecting this divider with the hedgehog and making a hedgehog also a flower. But maybe that's a bit much for one little hedgehog. Too much symbolism for one hedgehog. Okay, let's do big round contour around him. This would be kind of the outside edge of his spikes. Not sure still with an eye, if we want him to have this big of an eye, like a skull. Probably would do. Let's cut it out. Cut out. Cut in. Now, I think I will make this line deeper so it's easier to cut into it. You will see what I mean in a second. So I want to find the center of hedgehog, which is somewhere here, and then all his spikes will kind of be going in that direction. I will just add some guidelines for myself. I'm not gonna draw each spike. So that's the plan, to kind of just start the line at the edge and then slowly faded out by this inner side of this hedgehog's spikes. And my hope is that if I do enough of those lines, then on the outside they will kind of blend together and look like a bunch of spikes. I think hedgehogs are more organized than a bunch of hay here, so their spikes will be maybe less chaotic and more aligned with each other. I will add some thinner lines maybe between these two. These few. Just to make his spikes a bit more dense and uniform. I think this hedgehog is fine. The other thing I can do to help him have the spikes more kind of as a gradient is to just, you know, clean up some of them from this side, because they're not supposed to have very thick ends, those spikes. And I can maybe make it more clear. Creates a lot of this grass, but you can just clean it up with one big swoop. If you just go over that line again. Well, almost. Some of these just need a little hand. A little bit of help. I think I will continue this line of the hedgehog to the edge of the crest shield. And I'm not sure about this sunset idea. Maybe it would be cool to have some other pattern there. Like we can make it kind of just straight lines down, kind of how they have it sometimes on their actual crests from medieval times. You know, there isn't much variation. Well, there is a lot of variation there, but there are certain symbols and patterns that were just used over and over again, and they had meaning, and I don't know it, but I think striped pattern probably was used at some point by someone. I'm also not super sure about corn, because corn is nice, but is it really that much of a symbol of... Maybe it is, but it's also kind of a symbol of summer. Pumpkin, I agree. Corn maybe needs some other thoughts, rethinking. This is pumpkin carving. Mushroom instead of a corn? Yeah, maybe mushroom. Mushroom would be more automated corn. Need to erase this corn then somehow. Maybe I just erase it like this. Yeah, that works. Perfect. Let's make this thick mushroom porcini or something. Let's finish the pumpkin here. This pumpkin is not going to look great, but it's gonna look like a real natural pumpkin with all its imperfections. So kind of works out in our favor, I guess. I'm trying to kind of add a little bit of, I guess you can call it fading at the bottom of the pumpkin, just following the shape. That's enough for the pumpkin. Let's do the mushroom. We still don't have a fourth element at the bottom right for this shield. Any ideas? Don't be shy. We have leaves and acorns, grass. What's missing? Mushrooms we have, hedgehog we have. Maybe a slug. Or chestnut. Just adds a little bit of shading to this mushroom. I don't know if it's a good idea, but we're gonna try. We can also add some shading and some veins to these leaves. They don't have to be super realistic, so let's just imagine some I also haven't really tried multicolored prints. The only things I've tried so far were kind of just black or red. I think I had one green try, but I don't really like the color of the ink. But there are ways to do multicolor prints, and I've seen some very cool examples online. And people get really creative in ways how they achieve that. Like some people just, do parts and then assemble it during the printing. But I also saw people just, like carving a hole in this print and sticking a different color section in there, which seems to be pretty DIY. I don't know. Feels like it's a bit of hustle to make it all align well. But I'm curious to try it out someday. So if we do regular carving sessions, which we might, then we can also try out different techniques. Let's add some details to these ginkgo leaves. We also have these fine lines going to the center, to the stem. I don't think we're gonna do the house finalization of the house that won the Instagram championship today, because we need to leave some time for the outro music session. I thought maybe I will make it a regular outro activity when I just play some beats on the Roland MC101 that I showed last stream. How did you like that, by the way, if you were present during last stream? I think it might be fun, at least for me, to make a whole stream dedicated to that device with some more explanation on how it works and what you can do with it. But that might be very niche, so I thought maybe if I don't talk much but just jam something and get suggestions, maybe even, on what to add at the end of each art section stream. Let me know what you think. I re-listened to that little piece at the end of last stream with the music jam, and I personally was satisfied with how it went. But you know, it's also different to listen to someone jam versus being the jammer yourself. So curious to know how it felt and was for the audience. At these lines here. Trying not to ruin the haircut of the hedgehog too much. This hedgehog silhouette is a bit weird. Maybe we like a gradient sort of thing here at the bottom of this pattern. Nervin says, I like the one corner without anything. I don't think I have to be something in the fourth corner. Naturally unsymmetrical. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this is just the spot where I put my logo on the print, and or put, you know, like what they do on the covers these days of books, just put like Netflix, something, and then the whole book cover is ruined. Or maybe not ruined, but it's so weird that you put this huge, it's not even a sticker, but it looks like a sticker, and it says now streaming on Netflix or HBO Max something. And I feel like this is missing the point of having a book. Like the good thing about this book is not that it's streaming now on Netflix, right? But, oh well. Marketing, you know, what can you do? I have a similar attitude towards Instagram and posting my stuff there, because it feels like, you know, it's like what it is. I'm, you know, promoting my business. I want to people to come to my streams and watch them, and eventually, get them to buy my prints when they're available, and also maybe support this channel on Patreon. And it is kind of a business, not yet, but the point is there. So I do feel like I'm promoting myself every time I'm posting on Instagram, and maybe because of that it's easier for me these days to post on Instagram than when it used to be, just me sharing my art for the sake of just sharing the art. It kind of maybe less personal because it's business thing. At least it feels less personal on the inside. But this is, I guess, the way modern society works, You need to... Everything is so oversaturated because of internet accessibility to making it more accessible for people, that, people need to scream about themselves to get noticed. And that doesn't always feel natural. At least for me. These two backgrounds behind the room and the pumpkin, I think I'll just remove altogether. Don't want to add any pattern there. Let's get the right tool for the job. A round, small chisel. I keep calling these chisels, but I don't know if that's the right English word for this. Maybe not having anything in the fourth corner is the solution. Indeed. I usually just carve first a deeper groove. I mean, as much as I can with this round chisel around the contour that I need to carve, and then just clean out the rest. I feel like in that order it's a bit easier and faster to keep the clean edge where you need it. Maybe this is a place for the bigger chisel. But first I will do around the mushroom. sometimes if you press too hard, the chisel digs so deep that you don't see the edge anymore. You know, like if you do this, you don't see the edges anymore, and then it sucks. So be careful to press too hard also because of that. But I feel like that also depends on the angle at which you carve. It's easier to go deeper at the right angle and harder at the not right angle, wrong angle. Okay, let's use this bigger chisel now for the cleanup work. You can also buy, if you're carving a lot and maybe with, I don't know, some more complicated things, you can also buy like a guard for the hand so you don't cut into your hand. But so far, I haven't really had an issue with that, because it's just, you just think which direction you need to cut, and usually I have enough linoleum left so I can just grab it and not cut in the direction of my hand. Safety first, kids. But sometimes you forget about the direction of carving, and then you stab yourself with the chisel in the hand. Or you just think like, oh, it's a really tiny thing I need to carve out. I don't need to change the whole positioning for that. And that's usually when you stab yourself with the chisel. Okay, I think I will add an eye to this hedgehog. Maybe he's done with his autumn preparations. Let's make him a bit tired. All right. I think this guy is more or less carved. The outside, I will just deepen the groove, I think, and won't really bother with carving it all out. Now we'll take a deeper, thick, bigger chisel and just carve out this outline. And then we can make a test print and see how it looks. And then it's time for a live jam. Hope everybody's excited for it. We'll need to clean it up later, this outline with a smaller chisel. But for now I just want to see the edge of this illustration. Now we get to the tricky point with all these I'll just make a big cut around it like this and deal with it at the end. If you haven't cut something off completely, you can still keep this thing there and kind of, it will be a little bit visible maybe in the print, but you can recover from these mistakes. Okay, now this hay part. Let's take maybe a smaller chisel. Just this. Kind of similar to what we did with the hedgehog. I don't know if it's gonna work out well here, but we're gonna find out really soon. clean this up now with the round chisel. Big round chisel for the rescue. Just add a little bit more space here, just because we can. I will leave the edges for now because it will help position the print on paper. But I guess ultimately you don't even need all of this material. You can just cut with a knife or one of these special chisels. I guess that's what they're for. After the first print, it's usually more clear if something is missing from the print, or if it needs to be, you know, updated a bit or something like that. For example, I see here that this needs to be empty. Like this, and also probably this one should be out. All right, I think we can give this one a try. Let's see. I have some ink here. I don't have the proper tray for it yet, but let's just, for today, we can probably try without it. Have a roller. I always like this moment of truth when you can finally see all the things you haven't carved and all the things you've carved. I also don't really have a print paper right now. Prints. So we'll just use this printer paper to press. And then we'll use this dirty piece of paper to just like roll this again. talk. Eventually, I guess it would be smart to figure out some better way of doing this. But for today, it's what it is. Can also use this. To press into those smaller areas, especially with the grass. Let's see, the moment of truth. Well, I'd say it's not bad. Obviously, this is not a printing paper, so it needs to be right on the proper paper that sucks in the ink a little bit better. But overall, I think there is some things, like you can see here, probably would be nice to continue this empty area around the hedgehog and maybe make it even more kind of smooth of a gradient between dark part and the light part. Hey, I think it worked out pretty okay. It does look brassy. Pumpkin, alright. And dingo leaves are just, a good subject. So thank you, Norvin, for suggesting it. Let's date this sheet of paper. And sign. Because in few years, if this is still somewhere in the drawer, I won't know when I did it. But I think for our sketch part, this is it. And now we can move on to a little jam session to play us out into Sunday. It's still an open question what's going to be, also when the next stream is going to be. But let me know if you like this Sunday morning slot. I feel like starting Sunday with some art isn't the worst. So if that works, it works. I'm also kind of exploring some ideas about maybe just chill streams without much talking, just some music and drawing, just as a time slot where if you also feel like listening to lo-fi and drawing something, you could do that. let's get ready. I don't know where is this white cloth important, but here we go. Let's load a project. And I guess it's time to remove the birds and the lo-fi, because we are gonna, well, the lo-fi didn't turn off. We're gonna play something here. I can't remember most of these projects, so let's pick one and see what it is. All right, and let's see. Okay, I think today is gonna be some ambient outro. I'm not gonna be talking much. I will just be figuring out live what's in this project here, and we can explore it together. But I will get to it. Alright, think this is where we're gonna end the today's streams. Thank you all for being here. Hope you enjoyed, had fun. If you drew anything or did anything fun in the meantime, post it on Discord and stay tuned for the next time. Have a great Sunday, everyone.